I was stationed in West Germany from 1987 to 1990. In the winter of 1988, I had the good fortune to take leave for Christmas. I hadn't been home in 2 years, and so this was a special trip. I had tried to save enough money for the round-trip flight, but I came up woefully short when it came time to purchase the ticket. My mother, God bless her, found the cash and sent it Western Union. I purchased the ticket. Pan Am Flight 103, Frankfurt to Detroit, via London and New York. I had a layover in New York with a connecting flight to Miami. Home was West Palm Beach, Florida. I was a stand-in promotions clerk for the battalion. My specialty, or MOS, was medical specialist, but I had volunteered to help in the Personnel Administration Center during a time when they were in desperate need of a promotions clerk. Every month I set up a special room for our promotions board. The battalion's first sergeants would question soldiers who had been chosen to stand before the board. The new prospective sergeants sat outside waiting for their turn before the first sergeants. I had done this duty for almost a year. I was in hopes that I could get home before I had to host another promotions board. As I was getting ready to say my goodbyes, I was informed by my platoon sergeant that my leave had been canceled and that I needed to run the promotions board on Wednesday, December 21st. I was livid that I was going to miss my chance to see my family for the holidays. I didn't have a good working relationship with this sergeant, and I felt that this had been a personal slight. I was short with him, and he knew I was angry with him. It didn't matter. The board would be performed as usual. I returned my ticket to the travel office. I was lucky enough to have gotten a refund, and I planned to travel to the Western Union office to return the money to my mother. I was hurt and upset. My mother was saddened that another year would pass without seeing me. I settled into the realization that I would run the board, then spend Christmas in the barracks, alone. Wednesday came and went. The board went off without a hitch. I finished all the paperwork and filed it in the Personnel Administration Center. I finished the day and started to make my way back to the barracks. 4 days till Christmas. The walk back to the barracks was cold. Winter in northern Germany has a way to chill you to the bone. The thought of South Florida weighed heavily on my mind. 75 degrees, cloudless skies, bright sun. I so missed Florida. As I was walking through the snow, I was quickly approached by another soldier in my platoon. He was bundled up against the cold. He greeted me and asked me if I had the plane ticket. I told him that I had returned to him on Monday. He asked if it was for Pan Am flight. I told him that it was. That was when he told me about the terrorist attack and the destruction of Pan Am Flight 103. I had held that ticket. If my leave had not been canceled, my name would have been on the roster of the dead. The news shook me deeply. I spent the rest of the evening in the barracks thinking about how close I had been to dying that day. The next day I returned to the office. My platoon sergeant was there. Talk of the terrorist attack dominated the conversation of many in the office. I thought hard about the events of the last day. I had been rude and disrespectful to the sergeant. I owed him an apology. I approached him and did just that. It was a heartfelt apology, and I was glad that he had canceled my leave. He had saved my life. He just looked at me, not even cracking a smile, and once I finished, he replied, "You see, Anderson, I'm looking out for you." He then went on with his work. I just stood there, shocked at his reply. I slowly returned to my desk and to my work. Within an hour, I found out that my leave had not been canceled, but just postponed. I raced to the travel office, purchased another ticket, and repacked my bags. The flight was for 6 a.m. from Bremen to Frankfurt, 2-hour layover in Paris, and then on to Miami. In 2 days, I was sitting on a Lufthansa flight on the tarmac of the Bremen Flughafen. I was going home. I didn't tell my mother that I got another flight and my leave restored. I flew into Miami and spent an extra $80 for a taxi. No one knew I was coming home. It was a wonderful surprise. I never shared the story with my mother. She would have worried, and it would have been a cloud casting a sad shadow over the visit.